Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Ginger and Chocolate Podcast. I'm your co host, Mike, along with Lindsay. Lindsay, how are you this evening?
Hello, I'm doing pretty well. If you're looking at this on YouTube, you can probably see I'm pointing right now to um, behind me to my jury duty little little invitation that I just got. So looking forward to little jury duty, or maybe I'll get lucky and they won't call me in, which has happened. I don't even want to say it because I don't want to jinx myself, but I've always not had to go in to jury duty. You
Yo,
call
you're
in
going to get
early
picked
and then
this
they
time
tell
for sure,
you
then.
whether I know. I just I'm like, where's some wood I can knock on? Other than that, I'm doing pretty well. Started running as we've talked about. And yesterday I did a 9 mile hike. The day before I ran 4 miles. So I'm feeling pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm
That's
running as well.
impressive.
So, along there with you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Getting back at it. Getting back at it. So, out to this marathon in a few weeks, and then away we go with training for Ironman 70.3 Oceanside. So, I'm looking forward to that. And tonight we have a special guest, a friend of mine I've known for a few years, and multiple Ironman World Championship finisher, author, just all around awesome dude who's going to tell us his story. Shay Eskew. Shay, welcome to our show. How are you been?
Well, first, thank you guys for having me tonight. I've been great. Honestly, can't complain. Keep my head above water. As you know, this day and time, that's the name of the game, right? Just make it to the next day, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear a little bit about
So,
your background, how you got into, um, how you got into the sport of triathlon.
Sure. I think like many of us, or at least most people I know, I think Mike's probably in the same boat. It's you don't really seek out to get into it. It kind of draws you into it. For
mm-hmm.
me, it happened back in '08. I remember distinctly I was working downtown Atlanta in a big high rise, and every day I'd get there in the mornings. And like most guys, was focused on chest and biceps. Right, wanted to work on looking good in a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I preface this: I was about 30 pounds heavier than what I am now. Time I was 33, and this older guy, like 65, comes up to me, barrel chested, military crew cut, and he goes, "Hey, tough guy." And I said, "You talking to me?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm talking to you." He goes, "Why don't you come in here in my boot camp class? Just me and a bunch of ladies. Shouldn't be anything for a guy like you with all your muscles." And I should have saw it, right? He was completely setting me up. And I'm like, whatever, dude. I'm going to show this old timer what he's in for, right? And literally, I walk in, true to form, it's all women, only guy in there. And they're all just kind of giggling because they know what's coming. 10 minutes into the workout, I'm gassed. I'm literally in tears because I had no core, right? Like I could bench press and do curls, but couldn't do any kind of core. So anyway, this guy completely embarrassed me. Went home, told my wife I just got my butt handed to me by a 65-year-old man. And I said, I don't think he knows what he's done. It's on, right? So the next day I come back and I'm in this class every day for 6 weeks, lost 20 pounds. Come to find out, this guy was one of the original Ironmen from 1978, one of the original finishers. He's also a Marine drill sergeant. He had done the Ironman again when he's 62. He was not your average 65-year-old man.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
bet.
But during this time where I'm getting my butt back into fighting shape, he gets
Hmm.
diagnosed stage 4 pancreatic. And so he and I started commiserating, talking about how unfair life is. He's like, Shay, I've done everything that the good book says. Served my country, one wife, raised my kids, loved my country. Now I'm going to die in a few months. I said, Henry, hey, I was 8 years old, set afire by a neighbor's kid. Like, I get it, right? Shit happens. And during this relationship, really came to respect the man, who he was. And right before we lost him, a group of 6 of us said we'd do the next big triathlon to honor him.
Mm.
And that was a half Ironman, or Ironman 70.3. We did the race, all of us were all celebrating that night, toasting Henry, and somebody goes, let's do the same race twice. 4 months from today, which is going to be the full Ironman, same course, but you do it twice. And so I went home that night and signed up. Nobody
Wow.
else did, right? And I was like, well, I'm in. right? That's all I know. And so literally the day before the race, I ran into Henry, the Marine who passed away. I ran into his daughter. She said, Shay, you know, Daddy's going to be watching you tomorrow. I said, yeah, I know that. She goes, no, you know, this is the 1 year anniversary of him passing away.
Hmm.
It hadn't even occurred to me. I just kind of went with the moment, felt led to do it, right, to honor this great man. And Mike knows, like, once you've put in the training and once you've crossed that finish line, you feel invincible. You're like, what else in life can I do? How can I feel this every single day of my life, right? And so
Yeah.
that's where that started that journey. I've been into it now 17 years. I'm 55 Ironman and Ironman 70.3 races.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's
So
an
there,
insane amount.
That is an insane amount. And I want to get back to that, but I don't want to just sort of brush over something that you said, which was that when you were 8, you were on fire from a neighbor or something along those lines. Do you mind
yeah,
sharing a little bit about that?
no, not at all. Because I believe through sharing is kind of how we all overcome adversity. But when I was 8, my mom had asked me to warn my neighbors about an aggressive yellow jackets nest they had in their yard. These yellow jackets had swarmed my entire bicycle the day before. And so I recruited my 7 year old best friend. We walked across the street, knocked on the door. The dad wasn't home, but the 15-year-old daughter was. So we told her about this yellow jackets nest. She goes, well, you guys show me where it is. Can you help me get rid of it? And I preface this by saying I had the most conservative, protective parents you've ever met. Wasn't allowed to stay with a babysitter, couldn't be around smokers, couldn't go to fireworks shows, couldn't ride a go-kart. If there was any chance of anything bad happening, wasn't allowed to do it. And so we pointed to the ground, the hole in the ground where the yellow jackets are flying in and out. She grabs a match, and we're standing about 10 to 15 feet away. She throws it down on the nest. Nothing happens, right? A match in of itself will do nothing. So as we're standing there watching these yellow jackets, she grabs a cup of gasoline without telling us, pitches it, hits me on the right side of my face, and my shoulder hits my buddy on the left side, hits that match, and within an instant, we're both engulfed in flames. And I remember thinking the yellow jackets are going to get me. So I ran across the street to my yard, stopped, dropped, and rolled, put my flames out. And when I looked back over, I see my buddy Jeff standing there screaming. And she, I guess, was in shock, was hiding behind some bushes. So I ran back across the street, got a water hose, and put him out.
Wow.
Hmm.
Somebody went and got my mom. They called the paramedics. We spent the next 3 months in the hospital. And as a result of it, my right ear had to be amputated. My right arm was permanently melted to my body. It took 3 years for me to lift my arm over my head. I had to learn how to write left handed to finish the 3rd grade. I had to learn how to walk again. I was told I'd never play in sports again. I mean, it was quite a journey to get back to what I would call normal. To date, I've had 43 surgeries,
Wow.
still having more coming up. But it's been a heck of a journey. And people always say, look, if you could go back in time, would you choose not to walk across that street and tell her about the Yellow Jackets? I say, if you were to ask me that when I was 13, 15, or even say 21, absolutely. Like, who would want to go through everything I've been through? But when I look at what I've experienced as a result of it, I say, absolutely. I'd do it all over again, right? I'm
Hmm.
married 22 years. I've got 5 kids under 19. There's
Whoa.
nothing in life I've ever missed out on.
That's awesome. Kind of joking, but not joking. 5 kids under 19 has got to be one of the hardest things you've ever done.
Well, I tell everybody we're overachievers. If you're going to do it, go all in. But it is by far
I
my
love it.
greatest achievement. You know, it's it's one of the most thankless, selfless things you do. Any parent that's been there knows what I'm talking about. That's what your legacy is, right? Like nobody cares what you achieve, how many races. It's to me, you judge it by how your kids turn out in life and how you've prepared them. That really matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I was thinking of something you said, Shay, just about having to overcome adversity. And I imagine when you got to the triathlon scene, in some ways, mentally, you were probably more prepared than the average person. Extremely. And then physically, I know you have some complications with sweating, and that would make triathlon hard. How was the journey into triathlon, and what did you have to do to be able to compete at such a high level?
I would agree. I think what I went through at 8 really prepared me differently than most people. Like, we didn't get pain meds. Like when they amputated my ear, most of it was done while I was awake with a pair of scissors. We never received any kind of opioids. The strongest thing I ever got for pain was extra strength Tylenol. You kind of learn how to push through pain. You realize most of it's mental.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things I tell everybody is, as a result of getting burned, I lost the ability to compete in sports that required finesse and touch. Just don't
Mm.
have full range of motion. But if there was a sport that required all out effort, last man standing, whoever had the highest pain threshold wins, those were sports I excelled in. I wrestled in high school,
Mm.
boxed in college, and got into Ironman. And the successes I had was never because I was a good athlete. I think it was because I was persistent, I was gritty, I put in the daily work, I didn't rely on immediate gratification. The fact that it took 3 years to lift my arm overhead, I knew success is measured in years, not in days or weeks, right?
Hmm.
And I think just kind of having that appreciation that small gains contribute to bigger ones, and if you do the daily things that you know are the right things, success is going to happen. And so that's where I'm thankful for everything I've been through. I didn't have to learn these hard lessons, but I would agree, like mentally, I think I was well prepared for these sports. Physically, Mike, you hit the nail on the head. Because of the severe burns, I have no sweat glands on a third of my body. I physically can't sweat. In the other two-thirds, I can't stop sweating. So I can't thermoregulate. So if it's really hot, and my definition is generally above 80, 85 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
my body feels like I'm on fire. Like when I'm running, like it literally. And so I sweat 5 pounds every hour during the races. And so in the Ironmans, every one I've done, I'm urinating blood during the run.
Wow.
Most people,
Good
that probably
goodness
freak you out,
gracious.
right? But I
Yeah.
know it's just normal for somebody like me that I'm going to be fine. Just rehydrate after, just severe dehydration. Now,
Hmm.
cold race is completely different. Those are my favorites, you know, because I don't have all the
Mm-hmm.
sweating.
Yeah.
Right. But world championships aren't.
No, I haven't been to one that is. Those are miserable, right? But
Yeah.
I've always qualified generally in a cold race. And so,
Hmm.
it's interesting you bring that up too, because my viewpoint of the world championships is different. Like the first ones, I was like, hey, I want to see how good I can do. It's all about me and what I can do. And then you realize, you know what? It's more about a celebration of the journey that my wife's put up with this. My kids have made sacrifices. Let's make the trip about them. The race just happens to be a component of it. Because, I mean, if you go to Kona and the other races, like all week, everybody, you're very race focused. And after doing Kona in 2012, I was like, man, I felt so selfish on the flight home. So I was like, this could have been a truly amazing experience for the whole family. But yet it was so focused on me getting ready for the race, I felt like I was taken away from them. And so ever since then, it's been more about, hey, focus on spending the time with your wife and your kids. Race day, it's all about you for those hours. But my happiness didn't come from doing great in the race. It was more about just doing my best, but more about enjoying the time with my family there.
And have you found a difference in the result in terms of how you feel on race day by spending more time focused on your family and maybe a little less time focusing on, race prep?
I think you're definitely a lot more relaxed. It's all about keeping things in perspective. You don't have that guilt after the race. You're like, man, I could have picked up 2 minutes here. I could have picked up a minute here. You're beating yourself up over your time. And it's more about truly just taking joy that you're there. Like, how many people would just love to have the opportunity to do what you're doing? Why are you nitpicking, taking away from your experience because you're like, oh, I could have been better? And I think that's one of the things we all have to fight in life is really just having a sense of joy for being there in that moment, that time. And it's like one of the things I tell my wife, you commented about the 5 kids, and I was like, at times it is very overwhelming. We've got 3 in travel soccer, one that we travel with for wrestling. Every weekend we're somewhere, oftentimes in different states, my wife and I trying to get our kids to where they need to be. But like I tell her, when things aren't going quite as smoothly as we'd like. I was like, how many people would love to have 5 bratty kids? How many people that have lost a kid or had a kid with medical challenges would love to be dealing with the headaches, right? These are good challenges. And so it's just having a sense of perspective at that moment. And I think it's so easy sometimes to kind of get overwhelmed and, get frustrated.
Mm.
I always remind myself, and it's like in these races, when I'm maybe not having as good as a race as I'd like, I was like, God, my knees are killing me. Well, I bet somebody with prosthetic legs would love to have 2 achy knees, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah.
having a sense of gratitude.
That's the
Yeah,
thought
it's
that got
definitely
me
true.
through.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Mike.
Lindsay.
I was just
I
going
was
to
saying
say
that
that
that thought especially about legs.
I think we have a delay. So I'm going to be quiet and Mike's going to go.
Sure, yeah, I appreciate it. What you're saying about people, like when you're racing, your legs are hurting. How many people would love to have legs running and be on that course? And that was the single thought I think that got me through the run in Kona, because my legs hurt worse than anything during that run. And I said, you know what? That means I have legs. That means I'm alive. That means I'm here. And I think like what you're saying, Shay, when you have these adverse experiences, I had a couple in combat in Iraq, and it made me appreciate being right here in the moment. How many people would give anything to have another day, with friends and family, would have another day to be able to be healthy and be at such a high level competing, that, like you said, with your family too, when you put things in perspective, it goes so much more smoothly. And I love that.
Hmm. Yeah. I was thinking about applying this to just life in general, Shay. When I'm, feeling very sorry for myself, which happens is part of my, I'm a sober person. And I would say part of my disease of alcoholism is there's a saying, pour me, pour me, pour me a drink, And, of course I can get into that because it's just the nature of the mental illness is that it's sort of trying to point you back to a drink. Um, but I have things that I do, like go to meetings and I work with other people who are sober and do all these things. And the number one thing that it does for me, because I'm coming up on 22 years without a drink. So it's been a long time. But the the disease is still around, you know what I mean? It's just waiting for me to take a wrong step. And so what brings me back to like reality and to feeling on the beam is to get into a state of gratitude, because it's literally all about my perspective. Like how much in danger am I of taking a drink? Not really a whole lot on any given day right now, but if I get into this where I'm not grateful and I think everything is it's about me and it's not going how I want it and do all of those things, I get closer to a drink and further away from sobriety, which is scary. So I think what you're talking about is really a helpful tool for anybody racing or just in life.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, as far as that sense of perspective, it's looking at things as happening for me as opposed to me, right? And so one of the things, like I'm really big in my faith, and so when things are going not as I would like, I always say, "All right, God, I get it. What are you preparing me for? Like there's something on the other side of this challenge that when I get through this, I'm gonna be able to do stuff I couldn't previously do, right?
Mm-hmm.
This experience is uniquely preparing me for something." And so, I always pray for it not to take it away, but to give me the faith and the confidence to see it out. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the things we need
Mm-hmm.
to all remind ourselves in life, that when we're faced with something is we will get through it,
Right.
regardless what we think. The fact that we are here today is evidence we will get through all these things in our life that we never thought we could get through.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at once you get through on the other
Yeah.
side of something is, wow, now what? Right. And I tell people it's funny, we always struggle, we complain when something's going bad in our life. But when we sit around our friends and we start talking about the good old days, it always involves some kind of hardship. Hey, remember
Mm-hmm.
when we could barely pay our rent? We just got married or we just took that job. And those are the things that we love and
Mm-hmm.
cherish. And so why is it the moment something starts going
Mm-hmm.
wrong, we start complaining, but yet our proudest moments are the moments when we struggle the most and the things that we achieved as a result of it.
100%. I have a similar experience, and I love what you just said about your faith. You know, for me, I've developed a relationship with my own higher power and my own concept of what that is. But I know that if I rely on my relationship with my higher power, I will, which, you know, I call God, but that I'll get through whatever it is that's I perceive to be giving me a hard time. And one thing that I've noticed, and you may have noticed this too, Shay, but whatever thing I think I want, or like if I am going through something, I'll have an outcome in mind that's better than what I'm getting. You know what I mean? Like why am I not getting, you know, why is this happening to me instead of for me? And what I've learned is that whatever my brain is capable of comprehending and understanding is never as good or as big of the thing that my higher power gives me in the end. You know, I just couldn't comprehend it. So I didn't think of it
Hmm.
because I was like, this sucks. And it's like, no, actually, it doesn't suck. You just are incapable of seeing all that's out there for you.
Yeah, Lindsay, I think, that's why I'm a big fan of reading, especially nonfiction, because what it does, it shapes how we view adversity in our life. And that way, when something bad happens, our first immediate reaction is, hey, I read about something like this. I can survive, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's, Ernest Shackleton and stuck in Antarctica for 2 years, or somebody battling cancer. And I think that's it, right? It's our brains are so finite in their ability to comprehend things. It takes us experiencing something to truly understand. And that's why I
Mm.
feel like the more you can read about those kind of situations, the more you can start influencing your brain. Like I'm a big believer of RAS, reticular activation system. So it's kind of a process your brain goes through. Are you familiar with that?
No.
So basically, it's a process your brain goes through every single day. So all of our brains come, I call it pre-built with factory with little filters in them. To give you an example, um, like if I'm in an airport, they're calling hundreds of names throughout the whole time I'm there. I can't tell you one name they call, but I guarantee you, as soon as they say Shay Eskew, you left your bag at security, come back here. Instantly, your brain hears out of all the noise going on, you hear your name and you run back. The same as the moment you get a brand new car,
Mm.
you will notice every single, say, white Mustang that you see in your neighborhood on the way to work at the mall, because those are things that are important to your brain. And that's what RAS does, is things that are important. It brings more of those things to you because your brain believes it's important. And so if you're one of those people that believes things happen to you, it's going to reinforce your belief. So every time something bad happens in life, it's like, Lindsay, this is horrible. Look how bad it is. You're such a victim. Can you believe
Yeah.
someone cut you off? Can you believe, you know,
Yeah.
all these things? Whereas if you believe things happen to you, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I got this flat tire, but because I got this flat tire, I wasn't involved in this big accident that happened 2 miles down the road. Right. And so your brain starts attributing silver linings to every bad thing that happens in life. And so that's what I believe has helped me, is to kind of always look for a silver lining every time something's went wrong. And I believe it's a quick way to kind of change that victim mentality.
Yeah. That's That's definitely the victim mentality is definitely something I think a lot of us suffer from. Like I said, I definitely have dealt with it, but I have to say I've been better in sobriety just through going the process of, for me, I worked the 12 steps and doing this process where you kind of go through your inventory of your poor behaviors, you know, that you had when you were drinking, which there's many, and you do these sort of columns of like, I'm resentful at this person because of this thing. What does it affect? You know, my fears, my sex relations, my financial stuff. And then you write down what is my part in it? So like I had my ex-husband in there and I came in a victim because he's an a-hole, you know what I mean? And so like he victimized me. The truth is, once I wrote all that down and said, well, what is my part in this? I was able to see how he did some things for my kids that I was incapable of doing at the time because I was drinking. He gave them some stability that
Hmm.
I was not able to provide. So if I can go through a little process like that, I can get back out of my victimhood. So it's kind of like what you're talking about. I didn't know that was called RAS, but it's sort of the same thing of like, maybe this isn't all like external forces just coming at me. Maybe there's a part of me that has something to do with this, and I could change the outcome by changing how I behave in the situation. What do you think about that, Mike? Or did you have something else to say?
Yeah, I love the concept of victimhood and self pity, and that. I mean, Shay, it would have been totally understandable and easy for people to accept, probably, if you had chosen to be a victim and have that mindset because of what happened to you. But you chose a different path, which, thank God, right? And I was a self-pitying veteran for a few years, and sure, yeah, some bad things happened that I wish I could have avoided or not been part of. But the perspective, I guess, is what I'm getting at, is makes the world of the difference. Because if you have a different perspective and you can find those silver linings, then your life experience changes. Then you have power. Then you can do something about it. But if you're a victim, everything just happens to you and you have no agency and there's nothing you can do in your own mind. And then your choices are limited. So I love just the perspective that you bring to life, Shay. And I love the perspective you have on your circumstances and the silver linings and finding the good and finding the positive and finding the opportunities where many people might just see challenges, roadblocks, and problems.
Yeah, I think a big part of it too, Mike, is it's who you surround yourself with. And for me, when I first got burned, I mean, I'm in this intensive care unit in Cincinnati at the Shriners Hospital, 500 miles away from my home, no friends or family, just my mom with me. And any moment like I would start to feel sorry for myself, I just glance around the room, right? I had a 2-year old in a crib next to me that was severely burned. There was a 4-year old that I see this young girl severely burned. Her face was melted to her chest, little nubs for fingers, 2 holes for her nose, always smiling and laughing. And you're like, how can I dare feel sorry for myself? Look how bad she is. If she can smile, I have nothing to complain about, right? And that's the thing, is like, if you're surrounded by people that are complainers and are always looking for what's wrong in life, they're going to bring you down to their level, right? But if you're surrounded by high achievers, people are always, hey, I'm in, brother. Let's go. We can do it. Whatever it takes, I'm all in. Well, guess what? You're going to have a very fulfilling and happy life as a result of it. I think so many people get caught in that trap, and it's just natural. You give in to the environment you put yourself in, and one of the things you have to learn to do is kind of cut those people loose in your life.
Mm.
And you will notice the quality of your life is going to go way up when you spend time with those. And I know, Mike, as part of your deployment, one of the things I hear from all my veteran friends is like, when you have that tribe, that's the hardest part, because when you come back to civilian life, you don't have that family around you 24/7 to always pick you up like what we're used to, right? And it's one of the things I miss about competing in high school and college. Like,
Yeah.
I had my teammates,
Yeah.
right? They're always like, dude, suck it up. Don't be such a baby. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea of having a
Well,
family that
I
you
pulled up.
pick, or I was just going to say, I like the idea, Shay, that you brought up, of having a family that you have your family, but also having like teammates and people that you are choosing to be in your life as sort of a secondary family, the ones that are positive. And I heard one time that if someone's standing below you and you're standing above, if you try to, like, if I try to pull them up or they try to pull me down, it's much easier for them to pull me down than it is for me to pull them up. And I often think about that in the context of people who I'm surrounding myself. Are they reaching their hands up to yank down, or are they reaching their hands? And I think someone who's reaching down to help you, you could step up. That'll help them bring you up, as if you step up. But if you're just pulling down, you're going to bring them down with you.
Yeah, fully agree. Fully agree to that. And so, Shay, the title of your book is "What the Fire Ignited," and I pulled up. It looks like 12 of the tenets you have. I don't know if you call them tenets or not, but I just want to read through some of them and ask you about a couple of them. And one, to ignite your fire. One is make a difference today. Two is quit talking about it, just do it. Three, commit to doing the hard work always. Four, when you compete, compete to win. Five, never lose because you weren't prepared. 6, give 110% in everything you do. 7, be memorable and stand out. 8, remember what's really important. 9, spend time with successful people, which we were just talking about. 10, which I love, laugh at yourself daily. 11, embrace the suck. And 12, live as if tomorrow is no guarantee. And I love that. And I wanted to ask you about a couple of those. One was commit to doing the hard work always. And how, I mean, you exemplified that because I'm watching you on social media, and no matter where you go, you seem to either bring your bike with you, find a gym or a pool or somewhere to run, and complete some kind of insane workout, no matter what time of day it is or night. How has that changed, that attitude changed how you navigate life?
As far as the change, excuses are out there, right? You can either find them or ignore them. And you got to figure out who you are. Again, I talked about my kids in travel sports, which is not conducive to training for an Ironman. And then I remind myself, look, you're not a professional athlete, you're a weekend warrior. And so, whatever time you can get in at the hotel gym between the kids' games, that's a success. Just like with practices. I mean, there's oftentimes I'll run for an hour and a half while they're practicing. And all the other parents are staring at you like you're crazy, but you're like, hey, look, I can either choose, like you guys, to sit in a chair and watch my kids practice, or I can get my workout in today and contribute to my own success. And so you just got to ask yourself, look, am I going to live like the top 1%, or am I going to give in to excuses and live like the other 99%? And I think once you kind of
Mm-hmm.
make that choice, you know what the right answer is every single day. It's not really a choice. You've built a habit. And so I don't have to ask myself,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I can do this. I'm like, hell yeah, I can do it. Right. And so, like, anytime I travel, I always have a
Yes.
bag with all my workout clothes. I have my workouts pre written. I know what needs to be done. Then you manage accordingly. But, like one of the things I think is really important that kind of comes into this, how do you squeeze in the workouts and do these things? It's realize if you want to be successful, you got to make sacrifices. That's a given. You can't go have drinks with your buddies
Mm-hmm.
and watch football with your buddies, spend the weekends away from the house if you want to be successful. But on that same token, it's figure out what things are you not willing to sacrifice. And so for me, it's time away from my wife
Mm.
and kids, right? Like if I'm claiming I'm doing these
Yeah.
things to be a better husband, a better dad, and provide for my family, I got to make sure the actions and commitments I'm making daily reinforce that. And so, like, I had people all the time, hey, man, come hang out with us Saturday. Let's go do this crazy bike ride. I'm like, dude, no, I'm going to ride in my basement
Hmm.
because I told my wife I would make breakfast in bed tomorrow. And then I'm going to take a break halfway through and go to my kids' game, come back and finish. And that's what you got to realize is you can't have everything, but figure out what are the commitments you're willing to stick by that will make you happy. Because if you're standing on the
Mm-hmm.
podium and you're by yourself and your family's not there to cheer you on, to me, you
Mhm.
failed in life. Like I have no desire to win a race
Yeah.
at the sacrifice of my family. And I've watched a ton of documentaries on uber successful athletes, and I don't know many where I saw their family talk about, oh, I remember dad, we pitch ball every Saturday and we do
Mm-hmm.
all these things, right? The memories about, well, dad was here, dad was here. That's not what I want. And again, I'm not trying to take away from what they achieved. That's just not what I want in life.
Mhm. Well,
Agreed.
I love the idea of balancing it all the way you are by, the idea of balancing your family and your work life and your workout life by just sort of figuring out what you need to do and then just doing it based on what's in line with your values. I think you don't hear a lot about athletes basing their training and their racing necessarily on their values. So if your value is your family, then you know how you're making things happen, whether it's, taking a break in the middle of your ride to go to a game. I think that's a really neat concept. And I feel like a lot of athletes, including myself, would be a little happier if we based our training and our racing and things on to make sure that they're in alignment with values. So I love that point that you made. And Mike, I know you had another
Mm-hmm.
one of Shay's What was that?
Yeah, tenets, or as I'm calling them. But number 10 was laugh at yourself daily. And that's something I love to do because I think one trick I was taught to deal with adverse situations is I had a good friend, Todd Godwin, who was killed in Iraq. And up until that point, when we go through just really difficult training evolutions or really difficult missions, he'd say, when something go wrong, inevitably, something would go wrong, there'd be a problem, an obstacle, a barrier. He'd say, don't ask why this is happening. Ask why it wouldn't happen. And then it's funny. Between that and treating every interaction I have with people that are less than pleasant as if I'm in my own sitcom, and I just listen to the laugh track in the background of my head, it makes everything doable. So I'm wondering how you incorporate that into your life, Shay, in terms of laughing at yourself and the situation.
Yeah. For me, humor has always been a coping mechanism. When I got burned, I was fortunate enough that around the same time, Wes Craven released his movie Nightmare on Elm Street. Kids would call me Freddy Krueger. And, for a while, I thought I was Freddy Krueger. When I looked in the mirror, I saw this horrible monster with scars all because my scars look nothing like they did back then. But then, it set in. I was like, hey, look, I'm going to be carrying these scars for the rest of my life, so I might as well have fun with it. And so when those same kids would say, hey, Freddy Krueger, I say, yes, I'll see you in your dreams tonight. Right. And that's what you kind of learn is like people can't make you feel any differently than you feel about yourself. You know,
Right.
the more you let them know, hey, look, I'm okay with these scars in one ear, and look, I'm fine with it. I'm sorry it bothers you. I'm sorry your life's so miserable that you got to find a way to put me down, but I'm okay with it. And so it's always been a way for me to deal with
Mm-hmm.
things. But like if I'm in a lot of pain, you'll know because I start laughing. Like that is my immediate reaction is not screaming. It's just I just start laughing. And it's crazy, right? Because it kind of freaks some people out. And you're like, but I'm in a lot of pain right now. It's just a way to reframe things.
Mm-hmm.
You try not to give in to
Yeah.
what you're really
Yeah.
feeling. But just like I tell my wife, she's like, why can't you be serious? I was like, life's serious enough. Why do we have to make it harder than it really should be?
Mm-hmm.
If I have a choice, I prefer to have fun. It's just who I am. And I found most people generally prefer having fun versus being serious if you give them the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Definitely. I think that's one of the attractions of
Yeah.
social media is that
No, I love
people
it.
like to look at memes just because the levity of, and it's a blessing and a curse, right? You can get sucked into social media and lose just an immense amount of time. But I've noticed, when you see like how many people like a meme, any given meme, the funny ones always have the most likes, and so sometimes you can think humanity is kind of doomed right now or something, but actually there's all these people out there that are just like, hey, I want to have levity in my life, I want to laugh, I want to enjoy life. And so you can see, oh, 4 million people liked this meme. It's like, okay, there's 4 million other people who think this is funny too. You don't feel quite as alone.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think TV has done a great job lately too of making us realize like the people we used to marginalize, like the nerds,
Mm-hmm.
that now they're the funniest people we know, right? Like how many sitcoms have you seen, right? That
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, he's so funny. And you're like, man, those are the same people that maybe in high school were made fun of.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're adults, we really appreciate just how funny they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Like Ted Lasso, right? Like how many people love Ted Lasso?
Oh my God.
And by all records, he's probably a big goofball, but God, he's so funny, right? He
Mm-hmm.
just makes you laugh, and you realize you feel so
Mm-hmm.
much better about yourself and life in general being around people like Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the concept that you have of laughing at yourself is also really, really good. Taking oneself too seriously. I'll speak for myself. I don't want to speak for someone else, but taking myself too seriously is a dangerous place for me to be mentally. It's not good for my
Mm-hmm.
mental health hygiene
Same for
to
me.
completely, you know what I mean, focus on myself and take myself too seriously when I can laugh at myself at whatever bullshit I'm doing right at the moment, it gets me out of it gets me out of myself, and I'm always much happier mentally, and emotionally when I can laugh at myself. So I do practice that, and I highly recommend it for anybody who's listening to this podcast. Try to bring a little levity into your life and try not to take everything you do and think, so seriously. Let's do one more, Mike.
Yeah, the one I really like excuse me, let me learn how to talk again. The one I really like as well is live as if tomorrow is no guarantee. And I know what that means for me. And through my experience, I'd love to hear about how that came to you and how that resonates with you.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say it, right? But what does it mean to actually live it out? And to give you an example, like for me, I had to have torn rotator cuff surgery. I've had both shoulders completely rebuilt. But the last one, we're literally getting up, heading to the hospital to have surgery. And as we're about to get in the car, I said, babe, hang on a minute. Give me 2 minutes. I run back in the house and I do as many pull-ups as I can do. She's like, what the hell are you doing? I said, this may be the last pull-up I ever do. I don't know the surgery is going to be fantastic. And if it doesn't,
Yeah.
I want to know that I made use of the last minute I had, right? Like I guarantee you come in before I have any surgery, you'll see me doing push-ups because I always tell myself if I can't do them when I wake up, I made use of every minute. That's what you want in life. And too many people are always like, well, we'll get to it tomorrow. And like I'm one of those people that generally, if it's something I want to do or have intention of doing, let's just do it tonight. Like my daughter 2 nights ago, 10 o'clock at night, I'm on the roof of the house with a headlamp on, hot gluing skeletons to the house. And she's like, Dad, what are you doing? I said, well, I told your mom I'd get these skeletons hung up for Halloween. I don't know I'll be able to do it tomorrow. I'm the dummy on the roof with a headlamp with a hot glue gun.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like life means so much more when you truly live it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not advocating I stay up till 1 o'clock every night doing everything possible, but doing the things that I can on any given day that mean something to me, you know?
Yeah, I will argue that being on your roof in the dark with a headlamp might end it a little earlier than you had planned. You know what I mean? Because it's a
Well,
dangerous activity.
I was you hate to say safe in being on the roof, but the small roof that I was on, there's two big lights there. So I've done it before. Not that that makes it any better, but I was very careful that, hey, hold this hand. The technical stuff I done when the lights was light outside, but
Yeah,
very task oriented.
it's good. That probably I can tell
Love it.
it's gotten you far. What else, Mike? Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I just want to say, Shay, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate you talking about your experiences. And it's such a gift for me to know you. I remember when we met in New York at the Kona premiere, and just sense just that you're just this beam of positive light and radiance. And I love it's infectious because I'm already planning my workouts for tomorrow and how I can be better and how I can do things today that I will put off. I'm just motivated. And so I appreciate all the energy you bring to life. And I know you bring that to everyone you're around. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. And, it's one of those, Mike, that enjoyed getting to know you over the years and just truly feel blessed all the people God's brought into my life. Like I'm one of those people that believe God introduces me to people for a reason. It's not coincidence. And I think when you start looking at your daily encounters with people and say, hey, what's special about this person? It may seem completely random, some stranger, but if you take the time to have an interaction, you'd be amazed. I mean, I've met a guy in a Starbucks that wound up being my shoe sponsor, and he wound up writing me a check for $10,000 to go compete in Kona.
Wow.
And all of it was because I met him in the Starbucks line in Atlanta and commented on his tennis shoes, right? And so you just never know. And that's what I tell everybody. Like, if you treat every interaction like, hey, this could be meaningful,
Yeah,
just kind of look around and interact with people in life. It's crazy.
that's
Well,
Mm-hmm. Fully agree.
very blessed.
Yeah, I love that idea, and that everyone is put there for a reason other than just random and coincidence. Right now, I have some people in my life that probably, like you had mentioned earlier, probably don't need to necessarily be there, but with the negative attitude, but they're also, I can look at them as teachers as well, right? And just because they aren't doing something the way I would do it doesn't mean that that's not a good thing. I like what you said. It's definitely inspired me to try to look at each person a little deeper than maybe just the surface. And so I appreciate that, Shay, and I appreciate you talking to us about your races and about the childhood and the challenges that you had there. That's all definitely inspirational. Whenever I see someone who's gone through something like you have, or meet someone, I always feel like, I always feel the sense of how amazing humans really can be. And I appreciate you bringing that to our show today.
Thank you. And I do want to add the note when I share, I always tell people, like, I'm not here to compare, like, because I feel like we all have been through something, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, financial. And as humans, we tend to want to compare, oh, I've had it worse, or I don't believe that. Like, I believe me getting burned may be the same as somebody else breaking an arm. It's just, I don't try to do that. I try to say, hey, look, here's what I've been through, and then try to have sympathy or empathy for those who are going through other struggles because they all impact us differently, right? Like, but I can assure you one thing: everybody's dealing with something, and I think we all need others to
Mm-hmm.
be a little more kind and understanding, and not so quick to judge us. Because I mean, that's the thing that worries me. I see today in the world is everybody's quick to label you and, hey, I can't be friends with you. And I was like, wait a minute. I've watched all these people growing up all these years. So we went to high school, to college, and now because you can air all your beliefs out on social media, now you don't like each other. I'm like, but for the first 30 years of your life, you guys were best friends, right?
Right.
But now because we have
Yeah.
to air every little, it's just, it blows my mind. I'm like, man, hey guys,
Yeah.
life's simple. Let's not make it hard. Let's have respect for each other.
Mike and I definitely are with you on that. We talk about a lot with each other about how we're very different in different, we come from very different background. I'm a Black female who's in her mid 50s. You know what I mean? I'm very different than Mike. Mike is a millennial, redhead, couldn't be pale or white.
Yeah.
And a guy, a veteran. And I grew up in this very, very incredibly sort of hippied out family that was definitely, there were military people in my family, but there was fighting within the family about whether you should or shouldn't be. And I didn't have an opinion on that necessarily, but just coming from that background, Mike and I shouldn't in today's world be friends, you know, because if you just judge on the surface.
And that's unfortunate that people feel that way, right?
Hmm.
I keep thinking, like, how many
Yeah.
people would be friends if we didn't know every little thought you experience, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole nother show.
But, on that same note, though, I
Yes.
do love when some of these people take time to invite somebody that thinks differently to sit down with them and talk openly for an hour, an hour and a half. I've seen a lot of these people change their opinions just because they finally had this dialogue that wasn't scripted. That they're like, well,
Right.
you're actually a pretty
Mm-hmm.
decent person. You know, I had all these
Yeah. Yeah.
preconceptions based off these little sound bites that once actually got to meet you. And that's what you wonder in life is how many of these people that are enemies or the media poses them as enemies on any given day might actually be good friends hanging out, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I
No, it's,
get caught up in this.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, maybe
Totally
we'll have
agree.
you back and we'll discuss this topic for,
Yes.
for an hour. Um,
That would be a great show. Would love it.
Yeah, that would be fun to talk about current state of the world with people. I don't know if fun's the right word, but it would be interesting,
Entertaining.
entertaining. So I think we
Yes.
did it. I appreciate you coming on, Shay.
My
And
pleasure.
yeah, it was just really an honor to meet you.
Thank you. Honor's all mine. Thank you.
Yeah.
All
Nice.
righty. I'm gonna bring us
Thank you,
sorry, Mike
Shay.
had something to say.
Yeah, I just want to say that everyone listening, please go check out. You can find it everywhere, including Amazon, with the Fire Ignited by Shay Eskew. And you can read more, do a deep dive on a story, and learn about all kinds of other stories that we didn't even bring up today that he's been through. That it's a great book. And we'll link to that, and we'll link to his website, and you can watch his performance in Kona and on YouTube, and all kinds of other exciting things that Shay isn't part of. So Shay, thank you for being a part of this, and thank you everybody for listening.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.